This is about a young family that invited the rabbi home for a Shabbat dinner. So once they're at home, the couple is in the kitchen finishing dinner, and the rabbi is with the little son of the couple in the dining room waiting for his parents. And the rabbi noticed this amazing smell coming from the kitchen. So the rabbi asked the little boy, what's for dinner tonight? And the little boy said, goat. The rabbi, goat? Are you sure? So yeah, in the way back from shul, I heard my mom tell my dad, remember, we are having the old goat for dinner tonight. What are you laughing at? I want to talk to you today about, well, it's a reflection after Hanukkah, actually. Today's sermon is a reflection after Hanukkah. Hanukkah is over. It's over. But it's really over. Should it really be over? And I believe that one of the challenges that we have is to keep the lessons learned during Hanukkah during the rest of the year, especially moving towards the end of the year. And you see, Judaism is an amazing thing. Judaism is a concept, it's an idea, it's a project, it's a dream that started thousands of years ago. And it's still alive, and it's still vibrant. Still vibrant. We still keep observing Judaism, and Judaism keep enlightening us and uplifting us and helping us generation after generation. Now, the story of Hanukkah is about 2,000 years old, but again, it's the same thing. We still light the menorah, and we still observe and celebrate the festival of Hanukkah. And Hanukkah is an amazing thing, and it has a very profound message. The problem is, I don't know if you had an opportunity to read my article from the shofar. Sometimes we forget the spirit of Hanukkah, and we let it pass without us getting what Hanukkah is trying to teach us. Hanukkah brings so many great opportunities. Number one, we have the opportunity to be together as a family. So Hanukkah, yes, it does have a family component. But Hanukkah also have a cultural component. Hanukkah is an opportunity to remember Jewish culture and to be proud of that Jewish culture and heritage. Because after all, Hanukkah is the moment when we remember that no matter what other people tell you, you have the right to observe your Judaism the way you want. Hanukkah was a time where a group of people tried to tell the Jews, sorry, you can't observe your Judaism. I don't like the way you pray to God. You have to put that aside and do it the way I'm telling you to do it. Those were the Greeks. And we said, no, we want to experience the Judaism the way we decide. And in every generation, we should remember the same thing. Doesn't matter what other people tell you, doesn't matter what society is telling you. You should be proud of who you are, and you should be strong, and you should observe Judaism the way you want. And also Hanukkah brings so many beautiful values that we can incorporate to our lives, and many of them are specifically Jewish values. And it's all good, even if you actually were able to observe Hanukkah that way. Hanukkah is over, and then as every beautiful festival or holidays that we have in Judaism, once the festival is over, then we fall into the trap of forgetting pretty quickly all the lessons learned during the holidays. So on Hanukkah, we learn the message of light. Light is a wonderful thing because life can allow you to see things wherever you go, especially when you have the right light. Ask Marvin about that. The right kind of light could be the result of a great streaming or a bad one. You need the right light. And we believe that in Judaism, we have the light of Torah to help us navigate life. And on Hanukkah, we remember that as well. The light of Judaism helping us navigate life. Light is a wonderful thing. But again, we receive the light of Hanukkah. It's all fresh, it's all good, but then it starts fading out. It's like and this is something that happens to me, by the way, and that I got this beautiful flashlight. It's amazing. I never had that kind of fancy flashlight in my life. It has like a magnifying glass at the tip. I wish I had one of those when I used to go to camp when I was a little kid. I always wanted a good one, and I didn't have a good one. Now I have a good one, but I'm not going camping anymore. But I have it at home, and I was playing with the flashlight, and then you see, it's great. But then you realize that the batteries start drying out, and then eventually the flashlight doesn't work anymore. So I believe that the same thing that happened with electronics and other things that are happening with the lessons of Hanukkah. Right now, we still remember it. It's still fresh. You may still have a stomachache from the latkes. But little by little, we start forgetting, start dimming. And we have to do whatever we can to keep that light shining bright during the rest of the year. Now, you see, the first test that we have to know if that light is still shining is going to happen this Tuesday. Do you know what's going on this Tuesday? Oh, I caught you off guard. This Tuesday is a fast day. It's the 10th of Tevet. Asara B'Tevet. That's how it's called. And they are basically 3 fast days during the year that they are relating to the destruction of the temple. Asara of Tevet. Then we have the 17th of Tammuz and 9th of Av. And it seems to be nothing to do with each other, but no, they're all connected to each other. What is going to happen on the 10th of Tevet is that we are going to remember the siege of Jerusalem by the Babylonians. What's interesting, because the Babylonians came to Jerusalem, they sieged the city, but there was no war. Nothing happened. They were just around the city, and it was a sound of alarm. Then if you continue in the calendar, when you reach the 17th of Tammuz, what happened is, by that moment, the Babylonians breached the walls of Jerusalem. And at that moment, the soldiers entered to the city, and the fight started to be inside the city. And then eventually on the 9th of Av, which is 3 weeks after the 17th of Tammuz, the temple was finally destroyed. So, which is interesting that sometimes when I study this story of the walls of Jerusalem and the breaching of the walls and the destruction of the temple, the traditional interpretation is that that wall, that, yeah, physically was the temple, but the metaphor of the wall is what protects us safe, or keeps us safe from outside's influence. Sometimes, you know, when the influence is outside, it's just a siege, there's nothing inside, it's okay, we can keep them outside. But then the rabbis talk about the breach in the wall, and there's the outside influence making it in, until eventually it takes over, which is represented by the destruction of the temple. But I believe that Hanukkah offers an alternative view of the whole concept of the wall and the breaching of the wall and the destruction of the temple. And it is because the walls, keeping everything outside, I say, yes, it's very safe, but I don't believe is the best solution. The best solution and the best weapon that we have to preserve our Judaism is not a wall, it's the light. When you have the light that allows you every day to know what is good for you and Judaism and what is not, is better than having a wall that it will filter absolutely everything. And we know that in Judaism, we always, many different times during history, we try to build walls around us. And I believe every time we try to build a wall, it failed. It's not a coincidence that even the wall for the temple, they also failed. We tried the ghettos, they failed. The best thing we can do is not to build a wall, but to have enough light with us to recognize what is good and what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. So I believe that that's what Hanukkah is trying to teach us, that the light should be with us not just for that 8 days, but all year round, to realize that not everything that society is proposing is bad. In fact, there are many things. I look the way we are dressing up, sometimes the music we play, and other things that we realize that they are not necessarily bad for our Jewish life. But if you don't have the right light to be able to recognize those things, then there is something that is failing. And we should always remember that it's important for us to feel that connection with previous generations, but at the same time, we can also be creative on what we add to our Jewish lives. See, in this week's Parsha, and this is what I wanted to say, this week's Parsha, there is a beautiful verse. I don't know if it says, this is a part of the negotiation between Judah and the Viceroy of Egypt. Spoiler alert, the Viceroy of Egypt was Joseph, but he didn't recognize Joseph. He thought he was negotiating with the Viceroy of Egypt. So Judah said to this Viceroy of Egypt, please let my little son Benjamin go. Because the Viceroy of Egypt took Benjamin as prisoner, right? And the argument that Judah is using, Judah said, and I would read it in Hebrew first. He said, "Lo nuchar hanar la'azov et aviv, ve'azav et aviv, v'amet." Translation is, and this was the argument of Judah, the boy, Benjamin, can't leave his father. He can't leave his father. If he leaves his father, he will die. Now, the question is, who is he? When he said, if he leaves his father, he will die. Most of translations, they would say that it's talking about Jacob. Because if you keep that boy away from Jacob, Jacob is going to die. But if you go to the Hebrew, that's not what it says. What it said, if he leaves his father, he will die. Who is he? It's not necessarily Jacob. Could be talking about Benjamin, and the grammar is still perfect there. And I believe, and the rabbis say that that phrase was written that way to purposely not making clear who is he. Who is going to die if we sever that connection? Because at the end of the day, the rabbis explain that this is also metaphor. Jacob, the father, represents our previous generations. Benjamin, the boy, represents this generation. And what it says is, if we disconnect them, if we cut that connection between the two, who is going to die? Both. The tradition of our fathers are going to die, but also what we do, what we add to our Judaism is also going to die. So what is the secret that Hanukkah is teaching us? First, to keep that light shining, to recognize that strong connection with our previous generation, but at the same time, that light is the one that allows us to recognize what is good and what is not, to add to our Jewish life so we can add and strengthen our Jewish experience without severing the connection with the previous generation. Because as the Torah says it this week, if we sever that connection, it's not a good outcome for our ancestors and not for our children. Shabbat Shalom.